Okay, welcome. We have already called this meeting to order before we went into executive session. And we're going to be moving on to the next part of our agenda. I want to remind everyone to continue to speak into the microphone so those who are watching at home on YouTube are able to hear everyone. We're going to move to the public hearing section, which would be the presentation of our budget adoption. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, and good evening. So tonight we're going to have the FY22 budget hearing, and these are the same figures that we've been over for the last couple of months here. Right now you're looking at all funds, revenues compared to expenses, and you'll see that in the operating funds we've got revenues at $77 million. Expenses at $79 million, resulting in just under a $2 million operating deficit across all funds. $146 million in revenues, and expenses just under $149 million, resulting in a $2.9 million all-fund deficit. In taking a look at the operating fund balance, you'll see that if figures that are in the FY22 budget come to fruition, that would leave us at 63% operating fund balance at the end of the year. And just going over some of the highlights, these resources that are incorporated into the budget align to our strategic goals for the year, including allocations for areas that are most impacted by COVID-19. Our operating expenses are outpacing our revenues. Final budget includes the GPA settlement for a one-year extension with the support staff contract. $60 million in construction costs associated with the successful referendum. Includes federal funding through ESSER 2 and 3 in the amount of $1.9 million. And the budget includes the first bond and interest tax levy increase due to the successful referendum with an increase of 265%. And that's all for the information tonight.
Thank you. So this brings us to our first opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to the Director of Communications and Strategic Planning. The director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship to the district. If a community member in the overflow room wishes to make a comment, they can give their comment card to the D35-4 staff member on duty in the room. Comments should be 3 minutes or less. And during this section, we'd like them to be related to the budget if possible. Please know that the board will be taking notes, but we will be in listening mode only, and an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We also ask that you submit one comment per opportunity. Kathy, do we have any comments right now?
We have no comments related to the public hearing on the budget.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to the regular agenda. We're going to the section C, approvals. I need an approval of the agenda. I ask for a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mike Corman.
Second, Diane Stefani.
We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we need the approval of the August 10th, 2021 regular and executive session meeting minutes. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the board meeting minutes?
So moved. Baumstark.
Is there all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go to the section D, communications, and we'll go to superintendent comments.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to begin this evening by two recognitions of two superstar children who attend school in our school district. We're very proud of their accomplishments. We'll get a proper introduction from Ms. Mary Garrity, who's our Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. Thank you, Mary.
Come on up, Abby and Brian, Mom and Dad, come on up to the center. Evie Peronis and her mom, Lee. And this is Quinn Lynch and her mom and dad, Ralph and Tom. Thank you for coming tonight. We're also introducing Aaron Ross, who is our assistant technology facilitator. So you want to speak into the microphone. Start.
So Infinitec is a nonprofit organization, part of United Cerebral Palsy of Greater Chicago. It leverages the power of technology for children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and to access their everyday lives. They also provide a wealth of resources to staff and parents to support the implementation process of assistive technology. So Evie received an Outstanding Achievement Award from Infinitec, and she was honored at a virtual dinner in the spring. And Quinn received a Certificate of Excellence for his use in assistive technology.
So we're going to begin with Evie. We have a video from Infinitec. We'll get to you. Don't worry.
Avanti is 11 years old and is a Glenview School District 34 student who attends Springman Middle School, which is part of the North Suburban Special Education District. Avantia's teachers, she has countless wonderful characteristics. Her ambition, humor, and positive attitude are immediately evident to anyone she meets. However, they feel that her best characteristic is her perseverance. She has faced seemingly impossible tasks that left even her teachers perplexed. But after a few days or hours of independent practice, Avanti is able to find new ways to modify the task in order to ensure that she was successful. Avantia has been using educational technology since 2014. She currently uses a Surface Pro with the Tobii Dynavox PCI 5 tracker and computer-controlled software to access the programs she needs for the general education curriculum. In addition, she uses Learning Ally to access grade-level books, the Snap and Read Chrome extension to read and manipulate text on websites and PDFs, and color overlays with reading line guides within the Snap and Read Chrome extension to track words in large documents. Prior to learning to use this technology, Evie had difficulties with the physical actions of writing, so she directed her support staff to scribe information for her. Now she is able to independently write using her eye gaze and voice on the Surface Pro and the Snap and Read app. And when required to generate longer assignments, she uses a voice recorder app or video recorder. Evie can also independently access everything on her Surface Pro by using one of many mouse emulation functions, such as left click, sticky left click, double click, or scroll. In addition, she is learning to drive her power wheelchair using her head array switches. In her free time, Avantia is an avid reader who can spend hours exploring books on Learning Ally. She loves to socialize, and technology has enabled her to virtually connect with others using her email and playing web-based games with her cousins. She enjoys acting and has participated in many theater productions through theater groups. She has also been exploring making her own videos and sending them to friends and teachers.
Hello, this is me. What's my topic? I'm going happy. So, thank you for watching.
Her teachers say that she's a ray of sunshine, and they are excited to see all of the things that she is capable of doing now that she has the tools to help her do them.
Evie, can you hear it? That made me cry, Abby. Abby would like to address the board.
This is my fight. Hi, my name is Abby, and I'm 12 years old. And I'm in 7th grade. The Tigers has changed my life from not being able to do anything to becoming more independent. I can use Schoology and do my assignments, snap and read to type my schoolwork and my schoolwork. I love reading and can access books. I also can email and play games. I would like to thank Ms. Ross for always helping me and finding new apps for me to learn. She is extra awesome. A special thanks to all my teachers and associates over the years who have never underestimated me. They work hard and help us kids. They deserve a raise. Thank you. Team. Go team.
Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Quinn and Evie, for coming out tonight. Congratulations. You guys are doing great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, team, also for being here this evening.
Thank you.
I will.
That was great. Thanks, everybody who participated. Now we'll move on to Section E, Audience Comments. This is the second opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card.
Wait, isn't there one more item?
Oh, there's one more?
Start of the school year.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You just went ahead of me.
That's okay, yeah.
I did. That was so good. All right, now we have the school environment leadership update.
Right. So, thank you. We'd like to spend a few minutes talking about our observations after 22 days of being in session. And we have this outlined in a number of slides that we'll share with you. We'll walk you through them. I think it's important to start with a reminder that our reopening plan was first presented to the board and to our community back in May. There were a number of modifications that were made to that plan over the ensuing months. The plan was presented again in August and approved by the Board of Education. And that's the plan that we used to launch our new school year. The plan has served us well. Again, this is, we're 22 days in, but the plan as outlined has served us well. We also said at that time, and I said specifically, that the plan was malleable in the sense that as we needed to make any alterations or adjustments to the plan, that we would do so and that we would communicate that with our staff and with our community. And tonight you'll see a couple of examples of that. Our goal from the very start was simple on many levels. It was keeping all students in school every day, all day. We knew well the challenges that presented itself last year. There were many of them, particularly with having students outside of the school building, whether exclusively or in a hybrid model. We wanted this year to look and feel and be different. Children on a regular basis with their teachers and with their peers, learning in school on a consistent basis. That was our commitment. That remains our commitment as we continue into the school year. We do want to share with you some things that we believe are working well. We will also be very upfront about the challenges that we have, and some thoughts that we have about making some improvements. Our SEL instruction and supports are strong. We understood that starting a new school year in the fashion that we are marked a difference from last school year, and that we would need to bring children and families along and to build those bridges. We believe thus far that we've done so. Our focus on the whole child, teaching and learning, facilitated through direct instruction, small group instruction, differentiation, access to all of our on-site facilities, and access to our full array of curriculum resources. This was all part of the plan. The plan's been followed. We also emphasized at that time, and we remind people, that we are following mandated health and safety protocols, which include masking indoors, cleaning and sanitizing, air circulation, air quality, contact tracing, and updating our dashboard, which we do on a regular basis and you can find on our website. Transportation, we began the year fully staffed. We remain fully staffed. We were able to retain most of our bus drivers from last year, which is a credit to our transportation staff, not only here in the district that facilitate Alltown, but to Alltown themselves. So that's a credit to them. In terms of food service, the meals that we're serving are up 20%, which is a testament to the consistency of a regular schedule for children. And we also have our Building Future initiative. So if you haven't noticed, we have major construction projects taking place at 4 of our buildings, and that has gone seamlessly and as planned accordingly. So we're very pleased about the things that are working well. We also have challenges, and that we've had these challenges really since the start of school. Unfortunately, we had some children who actually were in a quarantine scenario before the first day of school even started. And there have been subsequent students who have needed to quarantine since that time. Bus and lunchrooms tend to be the focus of our biggest challenges right now. And that is due largely to staff, space, and scheduling limitations. And in terms of the buses, we need to remind you that the distancing on the buses now is less than 6 feet, and any close contact is defined as anything under or less than 6 feet. So not having the students 6 feet apart increases the likelihood that a student may become a close contact, and we're starting to see that play out. And like I said before, lunch is primarily a challenge due to space needs that would be required to expand the distance from 3 to 6 feet, staffing that would be associated with the supervisory responsibilities that would go with that. So those are challenges. We believe that our test to stay protocol, along with our regular surveillance testing that will begin later this month, will help us limit the number of close contacts that are identified and need to quarantine as a result of the bus. So if you're identified as a bus close contact, you will be able to test to stay in that scenario. Unfortunately, the same does not hold true for lunches because the children are maskless during that time. We've also identified quarantine instruction as an area that we believe needs to be improved. We have on average about 75 students who are in some form of a quarantine scenario on any given day. I'm giving you the average right now. That's 1.7%. When you really think about that across 8 buildings and the number of students that we have in total for the district, it's not terrible, although 1 is too many. We obviously don't want to see any children who need to be in a quarantine scenario, but in some cases it's just necessary. We do have limited direct instruction, and we're going to talk about some improvements that we have planned for that. And we have varying number of students by grade on any given day, which is putting a strain on our initial model to have one designated building quarantine teacher, if you will. So we have some ideas about improving that model. We are also continuing to navigate in a very ever-changing environment. Just Saturday, there was a new executive order issued by the governor. Some of these executive orders, some of the rules and regulations that are provided by ISB give us time and opportunity to make modifications, others not so much. So if sometimes things may seem rushed to you in terms of a change, it's because the guidance may have come about abruptly and we're having to adapt. We believe we put together a plan here that, like I said, is malleable, and we will continue to refine it as we see the need to do so. So with that, we'll get into some of the more specifics of the quarantine instruction.
Yeah, as
Thank
Dr.
you.
Deli shared, on our return to school plan, one of the major changes from last year is that based on the guidance that we had over the summer, we added an instructional grade center teacher to each of our buildings. And that teacher's responsibility has been up to this point to provide opportunities for check-in with students, both in the morning or in the afternoon, provide some social emotional supports, and to build connections while the student is outside the school. It was also to reinforce and reteach components that were taking place in the school, but it was not specifically designed to provide initial direct instruction. It was more of the assignments were provided, student had a question, and that teacher would provide insight into what that problem was, get answers from the teacher, and kind of serve as a connection between the teacher and the student in order to provide a level of understanding that was appropriate for that time that student was out, as well as to provide support transitions during the quarantine. So when a student comes in and when a student leaves the quarantine, having some level of transition available for them. It was something that we talked about last year as we were making our transitions to and from. The difficulty with having one teacher at each school, and we knew going into it there were positives and negatives to every option that we considered over the summer. But one of the major areas is that you fluctuate in the numbers of students you have, in the types of grades that they're in, and in the work that they're doing. And in trying to maintain some consistency for the group, it becomes a little bit difficult for them as it relates to providing some level of instruction. The other component that came out is, as Dr. Deli alluded to, is that ISB, post the start of school, changed their mandate as it relates to instruction. And so they changed from having a focus on every kid in every day to more of a, when a student is out, you need to provide 2.5 hours of direct instruction, which, as we know based on what we just shared, is not provided in our current model and something that we're looking to address in our next idea. You can go to the next slide. So the following are recommendations, ideas, as it relates to moving our instructional practices forward in a way to help both meet the mandate by ISB for 2.5 hours of direct instruction provided for students, as well as to provide a closer connection for those students in their homerooms as it relates to their time away during quarantine. If you look, I'm going to walk through the information up there. K2 has no change as it relates to zooming into the classroom. The way in which it's currently working is working at that grade, at those grade levels. They are able to provide real-time instruction based on the appropriateness of the kindergarten, first and second grade. And one of the changes that we'll be recommending and moving forward with is providing a push-in Zoom and pull-out Zoom as it relates to our special ed, EL, and differentiated instruction. In our 3rd through 5th grade classrooms, what we'll be recommending is for one-way direct instruction. This is different than what we provided last year. If you remember last year, there was more of a two-way instructional model, and that is we had large numbers of students at home. In some cases, we had half the kids at home. And you needed to find ways to interact with both the students in class as well as those students at home. In this model, obviously understanding that we want students home for as little period as time as possible, it provides an opportunity for the student to at the minimum, be able to hear and listen to the instruction that's taking place in the lesson that's going on directly in their classroom. It's not ideal. Ideal is what Dr. Deli shared earlier, and that is every kid, every day in school. It's not ideal for the teachers either. We want every day, every kid in school for direct, in-person instruction. However, we understand that we are missing a part of our instructional supports when we're not providing some level of appropriate instruction at their grade level. In the area of support for special ed, EL, and other differentiated instruction, again, it will be zooming in for push in and pull out. And the grade center teacher role will adjust in these buildings for 3-5 and 6-8. And that is that because the grade teacher won't be having specific conversations with that student during breaking away, going meeting with that kid, the students still will meet with the grade center teacher to talk through questions, to talk through problems. You know, we have models, especially at our 3-5 level, where direct instruction is only to take 10, 15, at max 20 minutes of our EL and math lessons, and then students are to break away and work on their work. So during that time would be appropriate opportunities for them to meet with the grade center teacher in order to get feedback, get clarification if needed. The same thing goes for our 6-8 in terms of one way for direct instruction and zooming in, push in, and answering for grade center teachers.
So these improvements, okay, are all based on trying to help our students that are in a quarantine situation have the least impact as possible. And so as part of the whole plan, and many of the buildings are already doing this, ensuring that your building-based classroom team or in the middle school, their school teams are working together to develop plans and routines and systems so that when they come back to school, they have a much smoother transition than just being back in the classroom, ensuring that their questions are answered prior to them coming back to school and having them be expected to take a test or something, and a full plan would be written, not necessarily written, but discussed and implemented. Another improvement that has been made, and it's in our internal communication system within Power School, communication system that helps the grade center teacher and the classroom teachers receive timely, accurate information so that they can keep up on, you know, what the student is working on, how long the quarantine is, so that everybody is on the same page. Shield testing should begin next week. It's hard to believe. We are targeted to start on 9/27, and shield testing will begin at Westbrook right here and Glen Grove on that Monday. Hanking Hoffman are on Tuesday. The middles are on Wednesday, and Lyon and Pleasant Ridge would be on Thursday. So we have sent rosters. I've been working very closely with our third-party operator and hopefully getting this up to date. We are very fortunate that 41 parents from our community have showed interest in working for MedCall in order to be our testers. That's phenomenal turnout, and I know that MedCall is in the process of contacting them, getting them trained, and hopefully ready to begin by next week. So, and then once we roll it out, the first one, I think a very important part is that 74% of our students have opted in, which is fabulous. And I do believe 60% of our 7th and 8th graders are vaccinated too. So we're in pretty good shape when it comes to those pieces. Once we get up and running, we'll be able to add staff on. Non-vaccinated staff are required to provide tests. We're trying to get them, as long as they, want to test within our school using Shield. We're working to get that to start even next week or the week after that. 10-11 is giving us a little bit of grace time, so we'll see what happens there. Vaccinated staff will be able to participate and opt in starting next week. So, Test to Stay is part of the program, and hopefully will reduce our quarantine numbers. As of today, we had 1.3% of our students quarantined, so we're hoping that we can keep our quarantine numbers down by using this. And the people who will be eligible for that are those that are close contacts who have opted in to participate in the shield testing if they remain asymptomatic at school. So the positive case and the close contact have to be consistently masked, and exposure has to happen within school, like on our bus, not exposure out of the school, and not for travel. And then those, they would use, the test to stay would use the BioNex Now testing to stay on day 1, 3, 5, and 7. So we're still working on exact procedures on how that would work. I think that, is there another slide? I think that's it, right?
Yes.
And that is our presentation.
Does anyone have any questions for?
I just have one question, Scott.
Sure.
If I could.
I can't see it.
Yeah, I know. Is there an option to reopen enrollment, or has there been any discussion about that for those 26% that are not currently shielded in?
Yes,
Yes.
there is. In 6 weeks, I'm sorry. Every 6 weeks, we'll open it up again for enrollment. We are having people reach out to like 600 people that we never heard from, just to ensure that they make a decision.
And then just as a follow-up, are the vaccinated 6th, 7th, and 8th graders also shield eligible, like the staff are?
Yes,
In terms of
we didn't-
testing?
Yes, we did not exclude anyone, student-wise.
Yeah, are the vaccinated 6th, 7th, and 8th graders eligible for being shield tested so that they're not ruled out because they're vaccinated, was the
Right,
question?
The answer is yes. If they opt in, they can be tested.
Any other question? Jim?
For the new quarantine model, back of the envelope, it's about 10 students per school. That sounds reasonable to service with one teacher. Are there plans in place, like if that were to spike up to 20, 30 kids per school? I mean, is there like a game plan for how that might operate, or is it kind of scramble time if that happens?
We've had 30.
There's some flexibility and fluidity in our ESSER funding for us to pivot if we need to indeed bring on additional staff to ensure the grade center teacher ratios are appropriate.
I mean, can you hire someone fast enough? I mean, couldn't it?
But we do it with subs. that
Okay.
are,
Oh, subs, okay.
available. We could
Subs,
do
all right.
substitute teacher. But we do think with this new model and allowing the Zoom in the one way will help the students at home, because they will be receiving the direct instruction and then be able to start their lessons and not wait for their time to work with the grade center teacher.
And then my follow-up question on the Zoom in instruction, is it contemplated that the only students eligible for that would be specifically excluded due to a quarantine?
Yes.
Correct.
Versus,
that's it.
home at sick for some other reason, or,
Right,
broke
no.
their leg?
Then the
and needed to
right,
be home.
classroom teacher would work the same way they always did.
Okay.
That's a good question, though, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thanks for the presentation. I'm glad we're enhancing our delivery methods for education.
Yeah, we'll continue to communicate not only these changes, but any that may need to be made as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to do audience comments. This is a second opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to the Director of Communications and Strategic Planning. The director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship with the district. If a community member in the overflow room wishes to make a comment, they can give their comment card to the D34 staff member on duty in the room. Please keep comments to 3 minutes or less. Also note the board will be taking notes, but we will be in listening mode only, and an appropriate response will be given in a timely manner. We also ask you submit one comment per opportunity. Kathy, do we have any comments now?
Yes, we do. The first person is Mary Kaczynski-Dolan.
And I'm just going to remind everybody to please talk into the microphone so that the people at home can hear your comment too.
Thank you. My name is Mary Kaczynski-Dolan, and I'm the parent of 5 children in District 34 schools, 4 here at Lyon Elementary and 1 here at Pleasant Ridge. I'd like to commend the administration, faculty, and staff of the district for executing our in-person return for the 2021-2022 school year. As a parent, I recognize the layers of planning necessary to bring our children back into schools this fall safely. Last year, with Children in Goal, our household had a very different look and feel to it. It goes without saying, we've all learned a lot since the spring of 2020. In my professional capacity, I've dedicated my career to science and public health policy here in the United States and overseas. To that end, I recognize the substantial effort it took to bring us to our 6th week of classes, and I want to name my appreciation for the behind-the-scenes work that has our children enjoying the benefits of in-person learning. For the amazing early education support for students new to in-person learning, Lyon School Principal Stephanie Scheffler has excelled in her clear, consistent, and transparent communication to both parents and students transitioning into the environment. In providing an infrastructure to share accurate information and develop individualized return to school and isolation protocols, our school nurses are the backbone of so many of our families. Sydney Helmer, Lyon School nurse, has gone above and beyond in helping to curate resources for our community. Had my family not addressed firsthand the dynamics of managing COVID-19 in our household, I would not be able to share our thanks for extremely positive and thoughtful Grade Center teachers, Ashley Stanley from Lyon School and Morgan Richmond at Pleasant Ridge. This program, designed to complement the amazing instructional education offered in person by our children's classroom teachers, is a unique bridge here in District 34 and is a distinguishing system for our learners. We are all continuing to learn how to best support our students in the event of an exposure and feel it's important to recognize the scenarios and planning that has guided us to this point and into the future. Thank you for continuing to cultivate an environment that allows for our children to stay safe and healthy during this current global pandemic, and for your commitment to being responsive and proactive with the consistent goal of keeping all of our children safe, healthy, and in school as much as possible. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment. Kathy?
Next, Valerie Montague.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Montague. I'm the parent of students at Springman and Pleasant Ridge. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. As a family who had the unlucky experience of quarantining following an exposure on a D34 bus, we had a first-hand look as to what was being offered for quarantined students. And I agree with what's been said tonight that it was not an acceptable educational experience for the children in our district. I believe that many of you know my thoughts from my prior outreach, but I felt it was important enough to raise them again tonight in this forum. 2 of my children were subject to lengthy quarantines. 10 school days for my 3rd grader, who eventually tested positive following his exposure, and 11 school days for my 6th grader, who thankfully tested negative 4 times, but was quarantined as a close contact as he is too young to be vaccinated. In our scenario, the upcoming testing program would not have lessened our quarantine periods, and even with testing, there will continue to be a number of students who are subject to lengthy quarantines. I believe that the District 34 quarantine program needs to move from the arrangement that the Grade Center teachers facilitate the completion of the assignments, as we heard tonight, which is how the role was explained to me and which is what I saw as my children went through the program, to one of true remote instruction. And I'm really appreciative that that's the direction that we're going. I think it's very disappointing that we're 22 days in and it's going to take additional time, especially at the middle school level when the technology is in place. It was in place to start this at the beginning of the year, and many of our neighboring districts and districts throughout the state had already done so. This afternoon my son came to me in tears. He was struggling with dividing fractions, And as was pointed out earlier, we're 22 days in, he's missed 11 of those 22 math classes. So this is a real substantive problem, and I'm glad that we're addressing it, and I wish that we had addressed it earlier. As one of my quarantine children also has a 504, I would ask that the district consider putting a process in place for students with 504s and IEPs when they're quarantined for immediate outreach. It should not take repeated parental outreach to ensure that students' accommodations are maintained while they are in quarantine. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to an updated program.
Thank you for your comment.
Nanette Ross Meredith.
Good evening. Can you hear me? This is very strange. I can't hear myself. My name is Nanette Ross Meredith, and I am the president of the Glenview Education Association, and I'm a math interventionist at Pleasant Ridge. We appreciate the work that our administration has done to put together options for better instruction for quarantined students. We know that we all are here because we want the students to be successful. And it's clearly a priority for our teachers, and we know that we have the opportunity to take the time to make sure that we have, sorry, that's not for you.
That's not you.
I'm so sorry. That's okay. That we have the resources that we need to implement it well. We recognize that the state is making changes on a daily, sometimes hourly basis, and teachers are adapting to those changes in the same manner. We know that that is recognized by our administration, and because we're built on a foundation of collaborative decision-making in this district, we would ask that a great place for a conversation about this would be the Education Committee, and we just happen to be meeting tomorrow after school at 4 o'clock. In the past, this is where these kind of conversations were happen, where we could get feedback from teachers and ideas from teachers about how to best serve the kids, because they're closest to the kids and they're just as concerned as the parents and you about the instruction that they're getting or not getting because those students are unfortunately quarantined. So we would just ask for more time before we implement anything to make sure that teachers have an opportunity to provide feedback and some thoughts about a really good way to make sure this is done well. And that then it is implemented with fidelity, and we can make sure we do the best for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Nan.
Next is Jennifer Patel.
Hello, board. My name is Jennifer Patel. I know that you're familiar with me by now. We've had a lot of email communication back and forth. I'm a concerned citizen, and I'm also a parent of a second grader in Hanking. Before I start, I just want to say congratulations to the 2 students that were here, Quinn and Evie, for their accomplishments despite the challenges that they face, and especially in light of the fact that they have an added challenge and burden of wearing a mask. And that bothered me, and it should bother you to see those students that are already struggling have to struggle to breathe on top of it. I also want to say...
Can we keep the clapping to a minimum so her time doesn't get delayed?
I am disappointed with this board. I really expected more out of you. You have been unwilling to look at the facts, unwilling to look at the science, unwilling to look at the data, unwilling to act in your capacity as a local government, and unwilling to follow the law. I would try to appeal to your humanity, but I feel pretty confident that you would be unmoved at this point because your response is always the same. You don't want to change your policy, and you don't want to take a vote on masking. This board is hiding behind their legal counsel while our children are masked up to their eyeballs. Why be cowardly when you can be heroic? You guys have an opportunity to be heroes here. So instead of addressing the board, I'd like to talk to the parents who are online and listening. Parents, did you know that 13 courts within Illinois have ruled that quarantine by the school is unlawful without parental consent, or a court order by the health department? Did you know that quarantine is defined not only as being excluded from school, but also in the form of a device, like a mask, which is meant to limit the transmission of disease? Did you know that 3 of those courts just last week issued restraining orders against the school districts for enforcing a mask requirement and also quarantine to the lady back there whose 2 kids were quarantined? This means that those school districts cannot force children to wear a mask at school without parental consent or a court order from the health department. This is the current law in Illinois, also defined in JCAR. You also need consent to do test to stay, as a side note. Parents, this is important for you to know because this unlawful enforcement of quarantine violates your children's due process rights. That's a fundamental right. I have emailed all of this information to the board. These are my emails. And they have consistently responded that they will not change their position and they will not take a vote on masking. Unfortunately, District 34 hasn't left their community with any other immediate method of recourse outside of legal action. And this is my last point. I spent a great deal of time yesterday with over 100 people in the state of Illinois, with students giving their testimonies about things that are happening with them at masks. And there are lawsuits coming, and they're not immune in Cook County. I know Cook County is going to have lawsuits. So board, why are you doing this? Why create contention between the parents and the board, the parents and other parents, the parents and teachers?
Thank you for your comments. It's been past 3 minutes. We'll have another session. No.
Dr. Mary Carlton?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Mary Carlton, and I'm a parent of 2 current D34, my 8th grader at Atia in the Life Skills Program, and a 4th grader here at Glengrove, she was at Westbrook, and incoming kindergarten next year. I first would like to say is that my objective is not to point fingers or attack, because I know the seats you sit in are not an easy seat to be in, and I recognize that no matter what decisions you make, you will not please and make everyone happy. And I recognize that. But I appreciate the chance to be able to express my thoughts. When the so-called pandemic began about 1.5 years ago, there was what seemed to be a lot of unknowns and uncertainties. And through this time, we have learned a lot more information. Fast forward to today, why are we still discussing mitigation protocols? Why, after social distancing, wearing face coverings, a massive push to vaccinate, is there still a rise in COVID positive numbers and cases again? And that's a question that rattles my brain all the time. And possibly there is an answer. The way these cases are being determined are from the testing that has become a normal part of many of people's lives today. How accurate is this test that is being used? It is so accurate that the CDC is pulling the FDA's authorization to be able to use these tests due to its inability to distinguish between the specific COVID-19 virus and other cold viruses out there. This was information that I got and read on the CDC's website. The authorization expires December 31st of this year. Why are they waiting so long to pull it? Why has it been continued to be used if it's not truly testing for what we know as COVID-19? How many of the COVID-19 positive cases, not just all over the world, but also here in our district, are truly COVID-19 cases? And if that's the case, I was going to mention the close contact, but Dr. Jelly clarified a few things that I was going to ask. Are those close contacts really close contacts if they haven't really been exposed to COVID-19 and we're having healthy kids stay at home? I believe we'll never know the answer to this. The same goes for the variants that we hear about now, Delta being the main one. It's a natural progression of viruses to mutate, especially when our own immune systems encounter them and when vaccinations are introduced. They will never go away. We're going to have to live with this. They will stay with us as other viruses do. Based on the potential inaccurate results, we are continuously discussing mitigation protocols. We have been doing the same thing and will continue to do the same thing, expecting different results. This is called insanity. When does this end? For example, my cousin supposedly had COVID. She went and got tested, 3 negative tests to 1 positive test. So is it COVID, or is it just a regular cold? And the same thing goes on and on, multiple stories that I've heard. By continuing to do this, we're keeping healthy kids at home, like I said, and also staff members that are crucial to being here with the students. And just a note, I wanted to mention, I appreciate the COVID dashboard that's on every week. I don't know if it's possible to include how many of the positive cases were people that were fully vaccinated, just for community knowledge. I don't know if that's possible or an easy thing to do. I think it just would be helpful in knowing. In closing, I believe as a doctor, my primary goal and any doctor's primary goal is to empower people to make educated decisions for them and their families. I think it's important for people to do their due diligence before making important health decisions. Never should we blindly follow what we're told. It's not always in our best interest. It is time to take the mask off, not only from our mouths, but also from our eyes. Let kids be kids in school. I ask you to do the research yourself and empower yourselves to make the right moral decisions and not simply make them based on what the experts are telling me and are telling all of us in the community. Thanks, and I appreciate your time.
And the rest are for the second participation period. Somebody just gave me one that didn't indicate which participation period. Do you want to speak now or the second participation period? Okay, go ahead.
Can you tell us her name, Kathy?
Yes, that's Elena Baseman.
Okay, so basically I'm going to continue what Jen was talking about because I have seen many non-believers here and I want to make a point of it. So the name of the lawyer who is actually winning case after case in Illinois, it's Thomas DeVore, Thomas DeVore, D-E-V-O-R-E. Go follow him on Instagram, on Facebook, and educate yourself.
Please put your mask on.
Mostly the parents.
Masks
I have
are
one lung.
They're required.
I have one lung and I need to breathe. I'm sorry. I have a lung surgery and I'm not even kidding. My heart is pounding in my chest. I cannot breathe and I need to also speak. So my friend who works in a nursing home tells me that she treats patients, so it's over 70 years old, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and a healthy diet. So if you are telling us, the parents, to mask the kids for this, you are taking us as a joke, to be honest. So now, I have a message for all those parents who are online watching this meeting and hope to see a change. You are staying behind the screen for way too long. You can participate to change simply with your presence, nothing more, no public speaking. Hiding behind the screens makes this change a slower process. If half of you would be here, all this would end in a heartbeat. Step up and do your duty as a parent to defend our kids' rights. Law is on our side. If we do not defend our kids' freedoms now, very soon more is going to be expected from us to give up to. So, are you ready to fight for your kids' rights and freedoms, or are you going to sit and look at it? Vaccines are coming very soon for 5 years old and up, and we know about it, a month or two. If mask is illegal, quarantine is illegal, just imagine how legal is the vaccine. You are looking at us, you may think we are crazy, whatever you are thinking, personally, I don't care. What I'm asking you is to look in your heart and do what is right for the kids, not for what is right for the numbers, not for what is right, what ISB says, because we know everything is hollow. Look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and ask yourself, am I doing the right thing for the kids?
Thank you for your comments.
The rest of the comments are for the second community participation period.
So now we move to section F of our agenda, consideration of resolutions, and this is a consent agenda. I'm going to read, there's 21-101, the personnel report, 21-102, the payroll warrants report, 21-103, the vendor warrants, 21-104, health and dental renewal rates for 2022, 21-105, approval to accept donations, 21-106, disposal of surplus equipment, 21-107, administrator and teacher salary and benefit report for 2020-2021, and the 21-108, board policy press issue 107 for action. Can I ask for a motion and a second for approval?
So moved.
Seconded, Mike Corman.
Jack Torowitz and Corman. And we'd like to take a roll call vote, Katie?
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
And Heggie.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we'll go to the consideration of other resolutions. And we'll start with 21-109, the adoption of the 2022 budget. Are there any questions about the budget presentation? If there are not, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Jack Torowitz.
Second,
Heggie.
All right, and we'll take a roll call vote.
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Heggie.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we have the 21-110 playground surface bid approval for Pleasant Ridge and Henkin. Any questions or discussion? All right, I would ask for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, Heggie.
Seconded, Mike Corman.
And another roll call vote, Katie.
Heggie?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have the 21-111, the MedCall Shield Agreement. Are there any questions or discussion? I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Motion, Dolan.
Second, Heggie.
And a roll call vote.
Heggie?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Peggy.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have the 21-112, the superintendent contract. Is there any questions or discussion? I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Jack Torowitz.
Second, Stefani.
And a roll call vote.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Peggy?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have 21-113, the supplemental services for English learners. Are there any questions or discussion? I'll ask for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, Heggie.
Second, Dolan.
Roll call. Nelson?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Peggy?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Corman?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we have the 21-114 memorandum of understanding for the district nurse. Any questions or discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved, Mike Corman.
Second, Heggie.
And another roll call.
Roll call. Corman?
Aye.
Dolan?
Aye.
Jack Torowitz?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Comstar?
Aye.
Peggy?
Aye.
Stefani?
Aye.
Motion carries. That was a lot of voting. Good job. We'll move next to the discussion section. We have a presentation from Nicholas on the summer 2021 construction progress.
A little hard to hear you, just make sure you're.
Yeah, you make sure we're in the microphone so the people on YouTube can hear us.
I will talk into the mic. So thank you for your time. I'll try to be brief here as we just kind of go through a high-level update with where we're at in construction. It's been a while since I've been in front of you all, but since the end of May, we've had a lot of positive excitement on the job sites as we continue to start to build vertical on each of the sites. So what I've got for today, I'll just kind of walk through all 4 sites. I've got a brief summary of some of the current activities that you'll see if you're out by the job sites in the next week or 2, as well as a couple of pretty neat drone shots. So as we go through each school, I'll take a pause at the end of the slide if there are any questions before I move on to the next school. And then at the end of the presentation, if you have any other questions, that'll be a time to ask. So we can go ahead and get started here.
Dave, can you just put it in presentation mode, please?
Oh, sure. Okay, there we go. All right, so we'll start with Hanking Elementary. As of right now, this was the site that we actually got started first on. And I guess before I dive into it, what's great is that as I go through all 4 of these sites, you'll see a lot of the same information at all 4 sites as we're really tracking well schedule-wise. But at Hanking specifically, we've come a long ways in the last month getting our structural steel, roof joists, and decking installed for the new addition. As of this week, we're wrapping up the interior concrete slab-on-grade placement within the building footprint. We've completed a good amount of the site utility work. Some of our final site grading and prep work within the courtyard areas is underway. And as the steel is wrapping up, we've got our exterior wall framing materials scheduled to arrive this week, so that will that's exciting for us. We've been waiting for that material. I know everyone is aware of the current material and lead time issues that we've been battling over the course of the last few months. So for us, just to get past the steel is a big milestone. So we're looking forward to getting some of that exterior framing up so that we can work towards getting this building enclosed. The MPR, the masonry is completed. In the next couple of days, we'll get that roof decked, as well as you'll start to see the fluid applied air barrier installed, and then right around the corner we'll get the insulation and face brick going. Up on the roof, we're prepping roof drains, getting set for curbs as we're really getting ready to focus our efforts on the inside of the building. So here's a couple of shots. This is a view here of the addition. You can see where our metal deck has covered just about all of the addition. We've got a little bit of deck work left to do up towards the top of the slide there for the MPR, but all in all, great progress at this site. And just another view here. At this site, we've also completed our storm trap installation, so that was another milestone at all 4 sites, and I'll get to it at Lyon, but we've had successful installations across the board. Any questions before I move on from Hanking? All right, well, we'll move to Westbrook then. Westbrook was actually the last building that we got to get started on based on permitting, but we've come a long way since then and are pretty much caught up with the rest of the sites. Our concrete foundations and backfill work is complete. Our structural steel work has been ongoing. We've kind of been working our way from the south to the north with the structural steel going in first, joists and decking following behind it, and as they continue working their way to the north, we're expecting that same shipment of exterior metal framing material that we're getting at Hanking to be delivered here as well. And so they'll start that work following the steel as it gets completed. Our underground site utility work is ongoing. We have completed, as I stated, the east side storm trap. So we do have a storm trap going in on the west side as well, but that will not be taking place until the summer of 2022, and I'll get into that as we kind of talk through some of the scheduling components. But our interior masonry work in the MPR is underway, and all in all, we've done a great job of catching up at this site. So I'll move on now to some pictures. We've got a great look here at our MPR storm shelter. So that's a precast structure with a 6-inch concrete topping on the top there. So, and then even since this photo, which was taken about a week ago, we've come a long ways getting some of the steel installed. If you're able to drive by, you can take a look at some of that progress, and in the next week or two, you'll even see continued progress as some of that steel starts to wrap up. Any other questions on, or any questions, I should say, on Westbrook before we move on? All right, we'll move on to Lyon then. At Lyon, we've really started to jump ahead. The steel work is completed, structural steel's up, our roof joists and decking have been installed, and now we've actually started some of our exterior metal framing. The interior concrete slabs on grade are completed, and we've got layout for interior walls ongoing, getting ready to prep for some of our interior mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work. We've got the storm trap excavation and concrete base completed. We had intended to install the storm trap last week, but we had a minor delay, so that's actually scheduled for Thursday of this week, and that will put us in a good place then to get the south side of the site wrapped up. The same type of roof prep work with roof drains and mechanical work, curbs and such is ongoing at Lyon. Here's a couple of pictures, and again, this was taken about a week ago, so that's all of our framing. You can see they started some of the deck there, but now we're completely decked, which is great. And some of the courtyard work is ongoing there with the seat walls. Again, our utility work is, for the most part, completed, which is great. Here's another shot towards the top of the slide there. That's kind of where our excavation is for the storm trap. And that's Lyon. Any questions on Lyon? Okay. Moving on to Springman. At Springman, which is really one of the larger sites, we've made some excellent progress. Precast walls for the gym addition have been installed. There are a couple of panels that have been left out so that we can get the structural steel, the joists and decking in place for that addition. On the science wing, our masons have been flying. Steel's been set for the first floor. We've got our concrete deck down for first floor, and masons have continued to work their way up to the second floor. We've got our air fluid applied air barrier that's already been installed over there. If you drive by, it's that blue that you see all over the building, so that's a great sign because that means we're getting ready to start face break. So our masons are working real hard over there. Our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing trades have started some of their interior work. They've been working collectively with the masons throughout that process. But again, great progress at Springman. Here's this is a view from the west side. We've got the gym addition there, masons working on the west side. And then here's another overall shot towards the bottom there. That's the science wing. That's before we had it decked and masons working on the second floor. And you can kind of see the outline of the gym. Those are all the precast panels. So the storm trap at this site is kind of towards the upper center. It's got that black looking fence type around it. But again, great progress at all of the sites. So encouraged by what we've experienced thus far. We've been blessed with some good weather, and having started a bit late, very, very encouraged with where we're at currently. All right, moving on, just a quick, very high-level look at the overall project schedule. So right now, it's a race for us to get to more of a weather-tight building enclosed scenario. So at all sites, we're working on getting the roof work completed, the exterior framing, so that we can minimize any winter conditions, as well as be able to provide temporary heating inside of the building so that work can continue throughout the winter months. So over the next few weeks, you'll see a heavy focus on just getting that framing, sheathing, face brick, roofing. Been working on getting window framing in place for board up, just in preparation for the cold months. In December through May, the focus will be on the inside of the building as walls go up, bathrooms, classroom walls, and then we'll turn into getting some of the finishes completed. As we break from winter and get into the spring, we'll get some of that site work wrapped up as well. Coming summer of 2022 is where it's going to be real hot and heavy around here. We're going to have all these buildings additions are going to require tie-ins to the existing building for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So there'll be a bit of an overlap with phase 2 and 3, which we'll talk a little bit more about in FGM's presentation to follow. But it'll be a coordinated effort as we liven up all of these buildings as well as complete the site work and everything else. So that's a look at what we're tracking right now, schedule-wise. We've accomplished some great things with getting through some of our milestones, getting these buildings enclosed, and then ultimately having it completed for August of 22. We're still tracking in the right direction. And then just this last slide here, as it relates to our overall construction budget, I just listed on here what the bidding total was, this $52,966,274. Now within that bidding total, we carried allowances in separate bid packages that totaled about $2.8 million, and of that 2.8, currently we've used approximately 700,000. My eyesight's going. So again, still encouraged with where we're at the beginning. We had some pretty big ticket changes from the village, from the MWRD, which we were waiting for on permitting, and then as we got into some of the excavation, we had some soil mitigation that we had to take care of, which came at a cost, as well as anytime you unearth things, you always find things underground. So we've been navigating some of those challenges and getting things completed as we can. But again, as of right now, we're still tracking well within our allowance range, and I would expect that, as we get into the summer months, for right now, in the buildings, we don't expect to find a lot of unforeseen conditions, but coming next summer, once we tear out all those ceilings and make some of the final connections, we're not quite sure what we're going to find yet. So again, encouraged with where we're at overall. Some of these allowances are cash allowances. Some of them cover other line items like playground equipment. So as those equipment designs are finalized, we'll utilize some of that allowance to cover that as well. And that's pretty much all I've got for you for today. So does anyone have any questions?
Well, first I want to thank you guys for meeting with John and Mike and Dane once a week. We do get updates from them also, so this is helpful to see a high-level thing, but I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? All right, Dave.
All right.
Keep building.
Will do. Lots to be done.
Next, we have the presentation from FGM on the preliminary design work for phases 2 and 3.
Okay. I'll do my best to talk into the microphone. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the scope for phases 2 and the partial phase 3 of the referendum. What that means is that we are working on a combined package for all buildings for the summers of 2022 and 2023. For most of your buildings, what you'll see is that the phase 2 work and phase 3 work are both included in this set. The only building that is different is Springman Middle School, and that's because there were some design decisions and things for phase 3 that still need to be worked out and precluded that from being included in this set. But otherwise, that's what makes it a partial phase 3. So in general, what you will see is that most of this are things like classroom finish replacements, science lab renovations at both Atia and Springman, mechanical equipment replacements at all of your schools, office and multi-purpose room renovations at Hoffman, and office expansion at Lyon within the existing footprint. And the diagrams that you'll see upcoming show the work in a general fashion per year. So there's a different color for each year that you'll see on these diagrams. And it's important to note that because of the scale and type of work that you're going to undertake in 2022 and 2023, the entirety of the building will remain offline throughout the summer, because we'll be taking out things like water service, fire alarm, electrical service, so they'll basically be unoccupiable. Yes.
Is that for both summers?
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks.
All right, so the first one we have here is Atia Middle School. So the green color is the work that's planned for the summer of 2022, and the yellow is for the summer of 2023. This is typical throughout all the buildings as we move forward. So here what we're looking at are classroom finish replacements, which isn't really on the first floor other than the work that is in the alternates, which you approved us to work on, and science lab renovations and mechanical equipment replacements. So this is looking at the second floor. So you'll see when we look at second floor, and then the next slide is third floor, we're doing these science labs in each wing. The renovations will occur over a summer within one wing so that they stack up from floor to floor. And that will help with things like services with piping and ductwork and things like that. So that's the third floor, and that's very similar to what you see on the second floor.
Troy, can I just add something on Atia specifically?
Absolutely.
And it's really for the audience here and at home. We probably all drive by Atia on a regular basis, and it feels like, wow, that's a brand new building. But it is 20 years old. So when we start to think about mechanical replacements, that's at about the point when we do that, and that was all considered in years past as part of the preventive maintenance program. So even though that building has been very well taken care of, it is nearing that point in its life when major systems are going to be touched. So I just wanted the audience to be aware of that.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so at Glen Grove Elementary School, you'll get tired of hearing me say this. This will be the first kind of the repetitive lists. The scope at the elementary schools is very similar from building to building. So we're looking at classroom finishes replacement throughout the building over the course of 2 summers, mechanical equipment replacements, replacing galvanized piping, that's for domestic water, so serving faucets and toilets and things like that, and installing sprinklers throughout the building.
The green is 2022 and the yellow is 2023. That's consistent.
Yes, thank you, that's typical.
And these slides will be added to our board docs. They're not in there now.
So at Henking, the Phase 2 and Phase 3 scope, again, classroom finish replacements, mechanical equipment replacements, galvanized piping, and sprinkler installation. I would like to note on these diagrams for the schools that are receiving additions right now, the additions that are currently underway, the Phase 1 work, is not highlighted a color. So it's shown white on the plan. That's because that's currently underway. At Hoffman Elementary School, this one's a little bit different. So we're still doing classroom finish replacements, mechanical equipment, galvanized piping, and sprinklers. But here we are also doing a renovation to the multi-purpose room and an expansion of the main office within the footprint of the existing building. Those were both needs that were brought up during the space utilization study. Lyon Elementary School, again, classroom finishes replacement, mechanical equipment replacements, galvanized piping, and sprinklers. And again, the main office, which is down at the bottom of the building in the green section, is being expanded within the footprint of the existing building to nearly double in size. Again, that Phase 1 addition is shown in white at the top right of the building. At Pleasant Ridge Elementary School, classroom finish replacements, mechanical equipment replacements, galvanized piping, and sprinklers. Springman, again, as I noted previously, this is Phase 2 work only at Springman. That's part of the upcoming bidding documents. So Springman Phase 2 includes classroom finish replacements, science lab renovations, mechanical equipment replacements, galvanized piping, sprinklers, and also a substantial consolidation and expansion of the main office. There's a new stair tower as well that is to the west of the building, and that is making up for a stair that's relocated from inside the building. This is the second floor, so on the first floor was primarily our science lab replacements within those hallways. On the second floor, we're looking at classrooms that stay in their general location, but they are getting classroom finish replacements as part of this work. And again, as noted, no phase 3 work at this building. And lastly is Westbrook Elementary School. So here we're looking at classroom finish replacements. We're doing the pre-K wing renovations, mechanical equipment replacements, galvanized piping, and sprinklers. Important to note that in the green zone, the 2022 work is the gut renovation of that wing to turn it into new pre-K classrooms that are right-sized for pre-K. They will be the same size as the 2 that are added on in the addition to the south of that wing that you can see in white. And then the yellow wing will be the bulk of the classroom finish replacements in 2023.
Yeah, one other comment, just to give you an insight into our thought process. The reason there's so much work that's running right now is that we were looking for some continuity. We wanted to get the same trade in their remodeling your buildings, so you didn't have multiple contractors in there banging around and trying to tie in together. So in the long run, this is a much, much better situation, even though it's really a lot of work. It's just in your best interest to go this route.
So this is just a curiosity. Is the work going to be done in the order it's listed there? Or is that, I mean, just really not even a...
Not really applicable to continuity.
Phases.
In most instances, there's a little of each of those things in each summer.
Got it. They're going on
Very few
simultaneously.
cases is they're not. Like at Westbrook, for example, classroom finishes replacement won't take place in 2022 because that's a gut renovation of that entire wing. But in 2023, we'll be replacing finishes throughout the other classrooms. But in most cases, it's pretty much a 50-50 split. Half the building one summer, half the building the next summer.
So you gave me the answer I wanted. In other words, we're not going to do something and then have to open it up back up to do another thing and then, okay. I guess that was the crux of my question. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Does this speed up the timeline than we were looking at, or is it very similar?
The timeline is essentially the same. The benefit that you get from it, as Ron mentioned, is the continuity of contractors from summer to summer and to eliminate any kind of finger pointing or stepping on anybody's toes.
Sounds good.
So I guess,
yeah.
When do you plan to bid the work, or where is Mr. Torres? He's still here?
So drawings will be issued in January for bid.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it.
Next, we have a presentation on kindergarten fees and fee waivers.
Yes, but Eric has some information he'd like to share. Before he does that, I wanted to make a couple of general comments, and that is, this topic is on here really out of celebration for the fact that we will be offering full-day kindergarten programming to our students for the first time. And all of the work that you see going on now, the work that will continue to happen over the course of the year as we march toward being able to open our doors to do so is really, again, a credit to a community that supported the not only the concept, but the dollars to be able to do it. And so that should not be lost in any of this. During our referendum educational campaign, we did make several references to the board contemplating a fee for the additional half-day programming. So the state of Illinois really has a half-day notion in mind. That's just been historic. communities like Glenview that take early learning seriously have full-day educational programming available for kindergartners, and we'll be able to do that. This is really the first conversation about a fee that would be associated for that additional half day. And Eric, you can share some of the information with the board on what you found in terms of comparables and how we would go about potentially doing this. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dane. So, as Dane mentioned, we're actually in a very fortunate enough position to be having this conversation right now. And
Sorry, Eric, can you go a little more into the mic?
yes, sorry about that. Tonight, yeah, we're actually in a very fortunate place to be able to have this conversation tonight. On the screen right now, we've got an estimate for annual additional cost for this full-day kindergarten program. It looks similar to what we've presented in the past. Small adjustments have been made. And essentially, our best guess, using 450 projected kindergarten students, which is the number of first grade students we had about 2 years ago prior to the pandemic, what you'll see is a total of operating costs of about $1.6 million based on some of these assumptions. So if you use the 450, you get down using some of the HR staffing ratios to 12 additional, full-time kindergarten teachers, a number of special area teachers. You've got some support staff, and then when you add square footage, you're also talking about extra custodial staff to keep the rooms clean, and actually with some extra staff potentially, or some extra students rather, some extra food service staff to help make sure that the lunch program, breakfast program runs smoothly as well. In looking at other school districts, public, that are currently offering a full-day program, and looking at our policies that we currently have, board policies, we'd like to offer a fee waiver for all families who would like to apply for a full-day kindergarten program. Eligibility could be based on the National School Lunch Program guidelines that they use. We actually use this current year to help dictate eligibility for next year. All the waivers we're proposing should be accompanied by proof of income, and these waivers would apply to the kindergarten program only, which would include that sort of $150 typical fee, but would not apply for grades 1 through 8 at this time. When we take a look at some of the existing, again, private, and we've updated this information, private and public schools and what they're charging this current year, there's only about 4. And if you'll recall, there have been information with districts we provided in the past that no longer charge a fee for kindergarten. So some of those have come off, but the average of the 4 sort of in the immediate area is about $4,165. And then if you look at private school, about $13,500. And in addition, if you took this, what we're proposing is about $4,200 for a full-day kindergarten fee. And you sort of follow the same logic that we've done in the past with an early bird discount, especially first-year kindergarten program. We're going to be hiring more staff than we have in the past. We'd love to know who plans on having a spot very early on, so Kevin and his team can begin that process of hiring and staffing for the program. So we're proposing a $300 early bird discount for full-day kindergarten. So if any family either qualified or made their non-refundable deposit by April 1st, fee could be $3,900. And to reserve this spot, again, making sure that we have some confidence before we start hiring staff. To reserve the spot, you would put down a non-refundable 1/10 of the annual fee by April 1st. Or you could also qualify for a fee waiver. So if you turn in the waiver, the proof of income, we could turn that around and also let you know if you were eligible for a spot. We could mark you down at that time. So just running through some of these assumptions, based on some of the research we've done, I'm going to assume 20% qualify for a waiver of the amount that may apply. If you've got 450 kindergartners that enroll, let's just say everyone registers early and gets that $300 discount. If you compare what the revenues could be to the expenses, board net operating costs could be between 90 and 200,000 for our best guess. So I've laid out a lot, but certainly want to open it up for discussion on any number of these different factors.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Eric? John?
Yeah, I do. So that's all in line with what we've all always been talking about. But I wonder, hopefully we're going to maximize every square foot that our community has paid for these buildings. But the question is, why you're talking about the early bird fee is because, or the fee reduction, is because we're trying to, make sure we have it staffed properly. So since no district is required to offer full-day kindergarten, have we thought about like a cutoff date for registration? I'd hate to cut off somebody who just moved to the district, like in the summer. That doesn't seem fair. But at the same point, to your point, we've got to know how many teachers we need. So I just raised that thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, and it's certainly part of the reason why we want to go with the early bird discount. And then I think you're right. We're going to get to a point where we've got some reason to believe that we need to hire X amount of staff. And then, and I'd have to let the others chime in here, but I think we could leave it open until each section is sort of filled to what our sort of capacity would be. And then we are going to get to a point, especially this first year, in which, there's a quality of the candidate pool that sort of diminishes over time. And we don't want to be in a place where we're having to make hires that we wouldn't otherwise make and early on. So you make a great point, and I'd have to, ask some of my colleagues if we want to make a hard cutoff.
Yeah, well, there should be a cutoff date. I think it's a matter of what makes the most sense, given the obvious exceptions of people moving into the community. So we'll give that some more thought. Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mike?
I suppose, so two questions that I have. One, can you talk a little bit about the paperwork burden of the income verification? I hope we're not adding staff to necessarily do that, because that's another cost. Could you just walk us through that?
Yeah, I've been talking with a lot of my counterparts in other districts. It happens to be I've dealt with this in other districts, and I think that there's a variety of options, and we don't want to limit it. We want to make it as broad as possible. So first and foremost, if you're on what we call direct certification, SNAP, TANF, any of those things, we get direct information about that through our food service program, because we want to make sure families know and don't have to fill out that paperwork. So we'd apply that same system to this fee waiver process. So if anyone kind of gets support from the government, we would know about it, and we could automatically sort of waive the process, to not use a great word there. We'd take things like your tax paperwork on an annual basis. We'd take paycheck stubs. If you have no income, we'd take a statement from you that just sort of explains how you're feeding your family and how you're getting along.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
In terms of the efficiencies of the things that Eric is describing, we're looking at all of that, such that we don't need to rely on human beings to be shuffling any more paper than needs to be. There'll be some of that for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll always be checking in on how onerous of a system we're creating for ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
I think we
good
can
point.
do it without any additional staff.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you for that. Second question is around, let's see, we're in, first month of the year before. When will we start advertising that we are going to have a full-day kindergarten to the community? Maybe that's better for Kathy, but I'd say no time like the present.
Exactly. So I think we wanted to have this conversation with the board to make sure we had some feedback based on fees and waivers and things like that. As soon as we've got enough information, I think we're going to launch that campaign, and Kathy can speak more to it if you'd like.
And part of the part of the educational component to that is also having people understand that they're not compelled to a full-day kindergarten program, that we have to, in offering a full-day program, we must offer a half-day program in the event that somebody would be interested in that. So that's part of this second wave of education so that people can understand. That is equally important to know, because if there is a large enough quantity of people who are interested in half-day programming, which I don't anticipate, but it's possible, then we need a staffing model that would support that, or an educational model that's deductive from whatever full day we have put together. So all of that data is going to be important as we move forward here.
Dane, you just anticipated and answered my question that
Okay, sorry.
we're going to be asking the community, whether or not, if their child is eligible for kindergarten, would you want a full day or a half day option, correct? And you just answered that.
Yes.
So, thank you for anticipating and answering that.
Anyone else have any questions about the fee? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we discussed this fee when we approved the referendum, and I think there was consensus at that time, and it sounds pretty the same right now. Does anyone else have any input?
Yeah.
Jim?
Just on, as you know, I work at a private school, and so this idea of setting fees for students is something I do a lot. So it really is just around pricing philosophy. Like, if you just take the cost divided by the number of students, you get a number of like 3,600, right? And so there's a school of thought that you should set the cost at what the cost is, and then worry about how you're going to fund the waivers. So I just throw that out there for consideration. At the higher level, it's kind of like there's a little bit of subsidy going on in there, which we just want to, I think we should be explicit about if that's what we want to do. Subsidizing the waiver is what I'm saying. Like, clearly we need to pay for the waiver. The question is, what should that come from the fee itself, or should it come from sort of the general operating fund? So like,
I would just say this is a first-year program, and I'm open to being flexible as we go forward, for sure, with more data that we'll have.
Yeah, I think that's really key, because this is based on assumptions.
Exactly.
And we have to see how it falls out in real practice. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about that 450 number. And I don't think we're going to get under 450, but I think we might get more than 450, more than what we're assuming. But we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and based on the actual enrollment, we're down from what we had thought pre-pandemic, and so it's even more of a guess about these earlier grades. And yeah, it'll be an interesting first year, and then we can gauge and go from there.
Right. So, same time next year. We're going to hear from you on this. Okay.
Any other input? Is that enough for you?
It's very helpful. You'll see this again for you to act on at our next meeting.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Next, we have the following meeting agenda. Does anyone have anything that input? Okay. Now we come to audience comments. This is a third opportunity for audience comments. Anyone wishing to address the board can submit a comment card available at the check-in table and give it to the Director of Communications and Strategic Planning. The Director will call community members who submit cards forward. They will be asked to introduce themselves and describe their relationship to the district. If a community member in the overflow room wishes to make a comment, they can give their comment card to the D34 staff member on duty in the room. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and know that the board will be taking notes and will be in listening mode. And an appropriate response will be given later. Thank you. Kathy, do we have any more comments?
Yes, we do.
Great.
Anastasia Ivanova.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anastasia, and I'm a parent of a student going to Springman Middle School. And I'm here to express my concern over this board's overstepping of its authority. As it's been mentioned before, a mask is a device designed to prevent a disease, which in turn makes it a modified quarantine. And by law, you're required to have either consent or a court order from a health department. And I speak for many in my community You cannot make someone wear a mask without due process. That's not a concept that we accept in this country. Instead of fighting us, you need to fight ISB and the state mandates, and they cannot take your funding away. Under Title 23 of the Administrative Code, the Illinois Department Board of Education is not in position to force, reward, or threaten any school, district, or local board of education regarding said AGC guidance. And we want you to make this wrong a right. Please fix this. You have a duty to our children to do this. And I speak for many in this district, I said this before, but also as someone who was born in Soviet Union, I do not take lightly when someone is infringing upon my child's rights and my own. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Scott and Eva Castellaneta.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, board, for listening to me today, and parents. I have two children here in District 34 and 225. I lived in Glenview since 2008. I have a business here in Glenview, so I pay taxes, and rightfully so, because I came to this community because I know the school district is so good. I know you guys are all very good at your jobs. I speak to many of you, and that's what I want to talk to you about, is that my questions go unanswered. And I know this world's really crazy right now when people are up against each other. And I have a saying, you know, everyone's weird, including me. People look at me and say, you know, I don't agree with your thoughts. I don't think I agree with how you present yourself. And we have to stop doing that. We have to actually start working together to come to some type of an agreement of what needs to be done. So all I'm looking for is just some answers, and what I've been asking by email, and I've had some Zoom conferences, is some statistics. And I don't know, but I can't get any answers. I'm asking simply for how many children have been hospitalized, how many children have been you know, in respirators, and how many children have not come home from the hospital. And so I don't get those numbers, so how do I know how to react to your mandates? And like I've heard many people statistically say, or lawfully say, there are rules and regulations that have to be followed. So I'm just asking an appeal to you. Please help us. Please help our kids. Please look into this, and please fight the mandates that are being presented to you. I know you have a lot to do. You have wonderful numbers on the screen here right now. I mean, those are incredible feats of accomplishment. And I can't get a simple statistic on my kids and on the schools that my kids are attending. Please help us do that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comment.
Anna Sitko.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm the eighth grader mom in Atia. And I have a question about travel guidance for kids who play sports and have to travel. Now, through policies that you send us, they need to quarantine 7 or 10 days unless they're vaccinated. Why to punish healthy kids which wants to enjoy doing what they love? Do they really need to choose between school and sports? Do we really need to hire attorneys to send our healthy kids to school? And we do not ask you to take off masks from everyone. We ask for give us options and choice for us and our kids. My son came back from school today and he had to run inside because of the rain and he didn't feel comfortable. Winter is coming and there will be no options to take breaks outside to take off the mask. Please, please give us options and our kids options. If they don't feel if they feel uncomfortable, please let them take off the mask. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Next is Theodora Bogdan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Theodora. I have a daughter at Hankey, and I'm sure you guys all know me as well, like Jen Patel, because I'm on all the emails that come to you guys every week. I would like to also support all the parents that have spoken tonight on no matter what part they stand on, whether it's pro-mask, not pro-mask, whatever, pro-vaccine, not pro-vaccine. I believe in choice. I, like Anastasia, come from Romania as an immigrant that ran away in the middle of the night when Ceausescu got executed in the head. My family ran away that night. I know what it means to have your rights taken away from you, and I will fight to my dying breath for my daughter to have rights in this country.
Please, let's keep the clapping down.
So, I want to say this, knowledge is power. Since we've sent you guys all the information already and choose to ignore it, I'm here to educate the parents that don't know the legalities of what we are going through. We have 3 practicing attorneys on this board, and you guys might as well have missed a class, obviously, on legislature. Law supersedes mandates. That's plain and simple. Plain and simple. Mandates do not control our state. Laws, legislatures that have been voted upon are here because they've been voted upon, not because some tyrant is putting a new EO every single week towards our people. I want to make that very clear. Last week, JCAR, which is the Joint Committee of Administrative Review that governs and controls ISB, Illinois State Board of Education, they called them for one-on-one session for them to prove that they have power to take away your funding, to take away any kind of accreditation that you may have. And guess what, guys? They had no information to back it up. They were given 30 days to come back with a bipartisan vote of 10-0. That's 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans that voted against them. That's major. They don't have the power. Their power is hollow. There's no way they can take away your funding. So you guys are hiding behind this so-called mandate because you guys are scared to have your funding taken away. What about our taxes? What about what we do for you guys? What about our children's rights? This is, I think, more important than politics. The most important thing is that politics are not supposed to be superseding of what's happening for our children. Your job, your duty is to protect our children. That's why you guys are here, not to follow a mandate that's not a law. Now, you're right, Jen was right when she said that 6 counties have already won a TRO. That's a temporary restraining order against the school districts. That's not allowing anybody to be masked or vaccinated or any kind of testing. This is a fact. And guess what, guys? When the districts went to court, the 4th District Court judge laughed in the attorney's face, saying, when they said to them, oh, you know what, Pritzker's mandate, the judge like, who cares? They laughed and said, you know what? That's not a law. And they won their TROs. Now, currently, they're in Kane County, DuPage County, and Lake County. And they are coming for Cook. And there are many, many parents that I'm speaking for that are scared to come up and speak here, but I can assure you, there is one coming for Cook very soon.
Thank you for your comment.
That's the final comment.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for their comments tonight. Next, we'll move to our report section. We have the Foia Report, the True North Board Meeting Report, the Referendum Expense Report, and the Phase 1 Construction Change Order Report. Are there any questions regarding reports at this time?
I just had a quick comment. I wanted to thank Steve for keeping up the change order report so well and keeping everybody informed on that.
Yeah, that was a great change order report. Much more easier to read.
I second that. Very helpful.
Is there any other business? Anybody have anything they want to bring up? All right. If not, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks for coming out.